We're in for a wild night.
Welcome to everyone to episode 167 to Born to be Wild, a wild and wild adjacent exclusive Hearthstone podcast where we have fun hanging out, talking about the wild and wild adjacent formats of Hearthstone and spotlighting members of the wild community. I'm your host as usual, unusual, Electric Sheep City, on this beautiful Friday evening here in Orange County, California, the Denver, Colorado area. Joined by two of my favorite people, starting with Hydralisk. Hydra, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. I'm not doing awesome because I got to go to work tomorrow. Normally, we record this show on a Friday night, but we are doing this on a Sunday for a very, very good reason. Tonight, we do have a special guest this week. This is one of the more, in my opinion, prominent Hearthstone content creators out there, multi-format, legend player, podcaster with a world record for the most episodes, will never be beaten, to be honest. Even if he quit today, no one will beat it. blisterguy, how are you?
G'day, mates.
Oh, so glad to see you. This is a long time coming. We've talked about this forever, basically. You're a very, very busy man. You are a husband. You have children. You do. You know what? You can tell the story. I was going to talk about your podcast. You tell us who is blisterguy. Tell us as much or as little as you would like about yourself.
Yeah, I mean, when you say a long time coming, I'm pretty sure Nate was asking me if I could come on the podcast before it was this podcast and before either of you were here. So, yeah, I'll be the old dog on this one. Right, who am I? I'm a New Zealander who's been living in Australia for nearly 15 years. I've been in the Hearthstone content space for longer than I can remember. And before that, I was heavily involved with Magic the Gathering stuff. So I had a lot of a following through all that, which is like cheating, really. When someone says, how do you get a big following on Twitter like you do? Like, I don't know, spend 20 years doing it, I guess.
Yeah, that'll do it.
So, yeah, like I had a Magic background. And when I moved to Australia, I'd met someone over here. I was like, I should probably relocate. And so I sort of was dialing down my competitive play at Magic the Gathering and was more working on event coverage with them. I was like doing the written coverage of their events in the Asia Pacific region. And I moved over here, and after a while, I started to miss competitive play and stuff. And that's when Hearthstone was coming into beta, and I was like, I could probably try that. I've played World of Warcraft before; that looks familiar. And it didn't take me too long after playing that to realize that I was also missing engaging with followers. So I just started like tweeting and things, and then started doing a podcast. Like, I needed an excuse to be doing it. Right. The thing is once you have a family and you have kids, like the time you spend playing games, it's a little bit on the nose, right? I probably have things I should be doing. And so I was like, well, no, I mean, I've got a podcast to support, so I've got to be playing. So I kind of actually started the podcast as an excuse to be allowed to play, like to myself, to justify it to myself, which was ridiculous. And when Hydra says that no one's going to beat the number of episodes I have, it's probably true because this morning I recorded 1,183.
1,183, almost 1,200 episodes.
That is more than two.
Yeah, right. But the trick is because I do it 3 times a week.
Yeah.
So no one's going to catch up. Now, someone could catch up if I stopped, but clearly I've shown no indication of stopping so far. I'm kind of stubborn, and I kind of once I get into something. Yeah, I mean, it's how I keep young. I'm actually 84 years old. I don't look at it. No. Not quite that old, but more than half that now that I think about it. Oh, that's embarrassing. Anyway, like if I were to stop, somebody else has to also be stubborn enough to get that far. Like Coin Concede has been going slightly longer than me. I know that they were a podcast when I started thinking about podcasts, but I also know that none of the hosts on Coin Concede were active on Coin Concede at the time. In fact, even when we go back to Ridiculous Hat, I don't know that he was on that podcast when I started mine. No. So I'm probably also the longest running podcaster out of anyone in the Hearthstone space as well. And again, it's out of stubbornness. And if you want to get really deep on this, it's because I'm so remote located. Like one of the reasons I even got involved in the Magic community, I think, was because I discovered the internet. And was kind of basically reaching out. Like I grew up in Christchurch in New Zealand, lovely spot, obviously, but it's very far away from everything. And nothing like discovering the internet to really highlight to you just how far away from everything you are. One of the reasons it was hard for me to get on this podcast to even be on it is time zones are just magic. Like Sheep, you mentioned this Friday night.
Hearthstone.
Yes. So true. Yeah. All right. I get confused. You said it's Friday. It's actually Sunday. It's Sunday for you, and it's Monday lunchtime for me. Time zones are weird, right? So
yeah,
like even coordinating with anyone to be there. And so when I discovered the internet, I was like, why is nobody posting at night? So because it's the middle of the night, actually. It's like 4 a.m. in the States. Nobody's posting. So I felt really disconnected from everyone, and being online and on the internet helped me feel connected to people. So when I say I crave that connection with people, it's because I feel really isolated and lonely when I don't, even when I've moved to Australia. When you see the rest of the world and it's so far away, like you really crave that engagement. So the reason I was even getting involved with all the things is just to stay connected to everyone. It's weird. I can't even remember why I was talking about that, but that's why I do everything I do, I think, is just because like when you're in a niche space, like Hearthstone, for example, like that's not the same as being into like Coldplay or something, right? Like there's probably a lot of Coldplay fans in Sydney, not so many Hearthstone fans. So you need to connect to the rest of the world to be a part of all that. And I don't think anyone else has that same need to be tied to a community as I do as much in the creation space. Like everyone else could move on to something else. Marvel Snap, let's go play that. Off we go. I'm like, I can't do that. I'm anchored. So like I don't feel an obligation to still be playing Hearthstone. I really enjoy it. Like the coincidence is that I need that sense of engagement, but also I really like sticking with one thing and doing that a lot. I read the books that I like again and again. I listen to the music I like over and over. I watch the movies I like over and over, and I play Hearthstone a lot. So, have you tried other games? I'm like, I don't understand the question, and I won't acknowledge it. What do you mean other games?
So, speaking of Hearthstone and not other games, how did you get into Hearthstone, and how long have you been playing it?
So people in a forum I was on had mentioned it and put screenshots up. And I had played World of Warcraft previously. And so I was familiar with the world of Warcraft, as it were. And so they're like, oh, look, it's the Warcraft card game. I'm like, nah, I don't like the look of it. Those low things, that doesn't look right. But then more and more people were playing it in the beta. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll give it a go. And I think, again, it was that I can't play Magic anymore. I'm going to try something. And a friend of mine got me an invite to the closed beta about 4 days before it went to open beta. And I was like, well, that was it, silly. And then I didn't really play it too much. Like I played it a bit to try it out until it was on iPad, and then I really started playing it a lot. And I think Next Ramus was coming out around that time. I think I was playing when Next came out. I remember that much. So I've been pretty much playing since the start. Like not as much in the beta as once it was actually live, but playing very heavily since then.
Basically from the start. At that point, my first introduction to meeting you was through Discord, and we had this wonderful group that we had, and it still exists. It's not active at all, but it's Dad Legend. And this is the chicken or the egg for me. Did I meet blisterguy first, or did I meet Dad Legend first? I don't remember how it happened, but I met you, and I met Ridiculous Hat and Rod Johnston are all around the same time. And it was all through Dad Legend. And this is going back to about like 2016 or so. Do you remember, like, how did you find Dad Legend? Like, what's the origin of that for you?
It wasn't via Discord. I mean, I don't think I joined Discord straight away, but I know we gathered in Discord pretty quickly. I think I must have found out about it on Twitter through a lot of the other people, like the Velen's Chosen podcast, I think. Were sort of like where it was coalescing. I do remember that when we started talking about it, I hadn't made Legend yet, but I made Legend very quickly because I think what we had was there was a race between myself, Cinder Ascendant, and
Cinder,
Grant from Velen's Chosen.
Gold.
I can't remember what his username was though. We were going to have a race to get to Legend first, and then I just immediately got Legend the next month. And it wasn't like I hadn't tried; I'd been trying for a long time. I was just that close. You know what I mean? Like I'd made like the equivalent of Diamond 1 before. I was like, so close. And it's like, let's have a challenge. We'll get there. I was like, all right, well, I've gotten there. Okay. And so it felt like being part of the Dad Legend community. A lot of what I was doing was emotional support for everyone else, like helping everyone else get over the line and say, hey, look, it's a big challenge. The big challenge isn't the game itself. It's the emotional management of ups and downs and swings and all this. And so I was mucking in a lot with that. Like, I'm already a legend, but I got to help other people. And so it was all about helping other people get there. And I think we effectively were calling Diamond 5 was Dad Legend or whatever the rank was
Rank
at the time.
5 at the time.
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
calling
yeah.
It, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause we
Tomato,
started at,
tomato.
like, 20. Yeah, it was rank 5. The equivalent of Diamond 5 was Dad Legend, because it was like, if you don't have time to get Legend because you're a dad, that's what you do. Which it didn't take us long to go, that's actually kind of gender specific when we shouldn't be. And we never actually figured out a more inclusive way to describe it. But we did acknowledge it early on that it wasn't ideal. But I've seen people today. There's one guy tweets every month he gets Legend and tags a bunch of us in it and says, Dad Legend. I'm like, no, that's actual Legend. Dad Legend was the I can't get Legend and I'm getting to rank 5 thing. This isn't Dad Legend. You're actual Legend. Stop bringing yourself down. But it was meant to be a thing to say, like, look, you're a Legend, mate, because you're a dad. You don't have time to get actual Legend. It's okay. And what it meant was not that whatever that rank 5 was Dad Legend. It was like whatever your milestone you're aiming for is your own personal Legend. That's your Dad Legend. If what you can get to is Silver 5, that's what you can get. That's your Dad Legend. That's what you're working towards. And don't let what everyone else is doing like influence you. Don't feel that you're missing out or you're not good enough because you can't get it, because we all have a bunch of different things going on. And I think that's what that whole thing was about. And that's what we were trying to do, was like encourage and support everyone regardless of what their goals were. And, you know, helping people improve their goals so they could, or also just supporting them when they can't, because that's also valid too, you know?
Yeah, I will say that community was extremely inspiring, and at the time, for me, the rank 5 that was my Dad Legend, and I loved hitting it. I remember posting like, "Look, I'm 2 stars away. I'm 1 star away," and everyone's like, "You gotta do, like, you can do it," and like it was just so awesome. And then everyone's posting pictures of their kids or at the mall or in the park and doing stuff, and you know, like if you had the spare time to be able to make it there, it was super cool. And I absolutely loved it. It was like a really cool thing, and it brought a lot of us together. Going back, I've actually scrolled through some of the chat and seeing like the people that were in there that have like moved on to do other things and whatnot. Like it's pretty cool. Like a lot of people have progressed in the industry, and I mean, Hat works for the game now, right? Like like it's pretty cool. Speaking of doing things for the game, so we talked about the fact that you have been doing this podcast for so long, right? Like, what was the idea behind starting it?
Well, I mean, it was just to do something. So it wasn't the first podcast I tried to do either. I was doing a podcast with a guy called Kelly Diggs, who some people may know. He worked at Wizards of the Coast for a while. In fact, there's a new Disney card game coming out called Lorcana. I believe he worked on a lot of the world building for that as well. So when I met him, he was a contract editor for Wizards of the Coast. I met him in Paris at the World Championships. And I was competing, but then I'd already done some work with Wizards of the Coast, so I went backstage to hang out. He was editing. We got on like a house on fire. At the end of the day, at the end of the event, we stayed up all night drafting with leftover stock because we thought we were never going to see each other again. Sorry, this is going to be long-winded, but I love Kelly to death, and I haven't spoken to him for years. Anyway, we went back home to our respective places. I met this guy in Paris. We're totally soulmates. Like, we'll probably never see each other again. And, you know, everyone at home is like, whatever, I don't know what you're talking about. And, of course, Kelly had the same experience in wherever he was living at the time. And so eventually there was an event in Japan. And so they would fly me out to events that were close to me. If it was in Europe, that's too far. Why fly the guy out from Australia? So Japan, we can do that. They flew me there. And I get on the bus at the airport, and we always get these instructions. You get on the bus, you go to the thing. And the bus goes to the next stop, and I see a whole bunch of the Wizards of the Coast people getting on, including Kelly. I was like, oh! So he sits down next to me, and we're just hanging out again. Great, renewed house on fire, all that stuff. So much so that the boss, because we were both writing for the event, well, he was editing, I was writing. The boss was like, do I need to separate you two? Like, this is unhealthy. But like, no, it's great.
That's amazing.
And of course, what happened? We both go back home. Like, no, we're still soulmates. Like, are you still talking about that guy on the other side? Yeah. It's perfect. And so, a coincidence, he got married as well, and he and his wife were due to have a child about 3 or 4 months ahead of the time we were. He's like, I've got great news. We're pregnant. We're going to have a child. And I was like, I'm not supposed to tell anyone yet because we're a little earlier on, but we're also going to have a child. So we thought we wanted to have an excuse to hang out, but couldn't because he worked for Wizards of the Coast, so he couldn't talk about magic stuff.
Yeah.
I was like, what if we did a podcast together where we were talking about our experience as parents? And I can't even remember what we called it, but we found out through it that the process of recording. I know it It wasn't peas in a pod, but that was one of the ideas. I can't remember what it was called. Anyway, we experimented with doing a podcast. Nobody listened, but it didn't matter because it was all about connecting. But we also discovered that trying to line up someone in Seattle and someone in Australia to record with children was really, really painful. Yeah. And so I can't even remember how many we did, but it was just so difficult that I was like, okay, I kind of want to do the podcasting because I've tried it. I figured out how to edit audio, but I also realized I need to do it on my own because connecting with anyone else on the other side of the world, like figuring out the timing doesn't work. Like trying to sync up the audio, that takes too much work. And so what I wanted to do was a solo podcast. Now, I mentioned Mark Rosewater earlier, who's the head designer for Magic, and I think he still is. He has a podcast called Drive to Work, where he just gets in the car, talks about game design while driving to work. And apparently it's like this industry thing where anyone who works in game design listens to this because he's giving away secrets for free on it. I was like, what if I did a podcast where I was walking to work? Because I do a lot of walking. My last name is Walkinshaw. That's a good pun. I was walk to work. And so like I kind of based it off that. And I was like, but the sound quality be bad. And I was inspired by a separate podcast from Brian David Marshall, who was this long-standing grand wizard in Magic. He's officially the Pro Tour historian at one point. He and this other guy did a podcast in New York where they would just record standing on the street corner with all the noise and everything. Like they would just stop and complain about the guy who would always bring out his motorbike and start idling it. So it was this in-joke, the guy's idling again. They were always recording on the corner of Waverly and Gay or something. So like they made the world they were recording in a part of the podcast itself. And I was like, I guess I could do that, right? So I was like, if I record walking to the train station, the sound of me getting on the train is a part of the podcast. The sound of the traffic's a part of the podcast. The birds are a part of it. Me stepping around a puddle is a part of it. And I was like, this is something I can do. I can do on my own, like Mike Rosewater does. I don't have to care about the sound quality like BDM does. Like I can just do this thing. And so I started doing it as an excuse to be doing something so that I had justification for playing Hearthstone. And the first week I was like, I'm just going to record 3 times just to make sure it works. And then I just kept doing 3 times. And that's how I ended up with 3 episodes a week. I was like, it's ridiculous. And the other thing I did as well was most podcasts are like an hour to an hour and a half long, right? And so when you're a podcast listener, you're like, what am I going to listen to next? Well, I haven't got time for this. Like I'll set aside that one. And I was like, if I'm doing shorter episodes, because the walk is at the time it was only like 20 minutes and it's since expanded to 30 minutes when we moved apartment. The distance defines, and I was like, if I'm doing a short podcast 3 times a week, when someone's a regular podcast listener, they can be like, well, I haven't got time for the next Born to be Wild as much as I love hanging out with the guys. You know what I mean? I haven't got time for a State of Wild today. I could fit in another walk to work before the end of the workday. I'll do that. Exactly. And I was like, cunning. I was like, but it was out of necessity. The distance from home to the train station was 20 minutes. But I was justifying to myself, but this could work. If I'm doing 3 a week and they're short, they're bite-sized, I could have more of a following than maybe I would otherwise by having bite-sized podcasts that people would listen to. And people have said that it works. They love the bite-sized thing and it fits in. But it was all out of necessity. We can see now, I don't actually have professional podcasting gear. I don't have a studio I can record in. I live in a small apartment. The reason we're recording at lunchtime on a Monday is because my family isn't here. I can't record when my family is here. Yeah. Like all of these things like determined how I ended up making a podcast, but it's also what is different to everyone else. So it's just by lucky happenstance. And I didn't even thought about it, but someone's like, I really like how you've made content creation fit around your life as opposed to making your life fit around content creation. It's like, I never consciously decided that. It's just how it happened out of self-defense. Like, I want to do a thing. I want to hang out with everyone else on the internet. This is how I can get away with it. This is what I can do. And now I have these huge, like, what do they call it? Parasocial relationships with a bunch of people all over the world because I do podcasting and tweeting and make videos and all this stuff. Just because it was like, how can I fit it in?
Yeah. No, I've noticed like your dedication is amazing. There are episodes.
We call it stubbornness. Stubbornness is what it is.
Stubbornness. I remember, I don't know how many years ago this is, but you were going on vacation and you said, I don't know if I'm going to record while I'm on vacation, but we'll see. And then on your vacation, you're like, so I snuck away and I'm on a walk. I'm going around the block and I'm recording. I got to see if I can play a game. And I just thought it was really cool. And you actually managed to still hit like your 3 episodes or whatever your actual goal was. I know like sometimes in the earlier days, maybe you would do 2 a week and then make up for it and do 4 or whatever. Yeah. But like your consistency has been absolutely stellar.
Like the minute you stop doing something just for a moment, it's harder to pick it up again. And one of the again with Magic, people might know Marshall Sutcliffe, who runs the Limited Resources podcast, which is one of the biggest Magic podcasts. he once gave me advice when I was getting started. He goes, look, the best thing you can do with podcasting is be consistent. Like, it doesn't have to be good. It doesn't have to be polished. It just has to be regular, because the secret to podcasting is people don't really care what you're saying, just that they have a familiar voice to tune in to. Like, that's how radio worked all those times. The reason people listen to radio was because they tune into a familiar voice every morning or on their drive or whatever. And so if you're producing a podcast, the trick is being regular, don't skip anything. And so that people always have you to check in on if they want. Like, they can say, I've listened to your podcast forever. I don't remember a thing you say, but like, you're in my ear and it feels familiar. And so I was like, okay, well, I just want to make sure that I'm consistent. And like, in those early weeks when I did 3, as you say, it was a little all over the place, but I realized pretty quickly that somehow I had hit a rhythm where it was a multiple of 3. And so even now I'm like, have I miscounted? And then I'll do a quick math in my head. It's like, you say, multiple of 3. 900 is a multiple of 3. And so what do we do? This morning I did 1183. So we did this 283 plus 900. Okay, there's 282. And like, very quickly I go, yep, that is a multiple of 3. So I haven't miscounted. I'm still on track. And it means that if there is a holiday or a vacation coming up, I'm like, okay, so I've got to plan ahead. So this week I might have to do an episode every single day, just so that I've got 2 in the bank for next week. And then maybe the first one of the following week might be a day late or something. Or as you say, like, I might record some while we're away. And like, bless her heart, my wife is a saint for putting up with that, because it's not great. But like, also I've used the opportunity when visiting New Zealand to like get old mates on the podcast occasionally to chat. Like, you've
done it on the walks, actually.
Yeah.
Like, I've noticed the walk with you and play along and chat.
One of my favorite things is when I get spam emails about promoting my podcast. Like, I don't know if you're in charge of the Born to Be Wild email address, but if you are, you'll see them. How can we help promote your podcast? It's like, we've got this guy who's an esports expert who wants to come on your podcast. Like, when can you be available? Like, look, if he's in Sydney and wants to come for a walk, he's more than welcome. But I'm pretty sure you've not actually listened to my podcast. You don't understand that if he wants to come on it, he's got to come for a walk around Neutral Bay in Sydney, right? And it's going to be
speaking to my iPhone.
Yeah. Like, as we've found, like, because I've done a few episodes with my daughter, right? Like, it started out early on, where what I do is every time I hit Legend, I do an episode talking about how to hit Legend, and I just have this sound recording with her that I would put at the end of the episode as an Easter egg, and the listeners really loved it. Yeah. Because she was adorable, and anyone who's seen any of the reveal videos I've done with her, it's great. But this is when she was really young. We'd just be walking along talking, and I'd just be discreetly recording her on my phone. Like, she's 4 years old and just blathering away. And after a while, I was like, this is not really fair. I need to tell her that I'm doing this. So I'd say, hey, I recorded you again. I'm going to put it on. Is that cool? She's like, that's okay. But like, now that she's older, like, she can actually come for a walk with me on the podcast and kind of interact with it. But she's also really hyperactive. So she'd be bouncing all over the place. I'm like, you got to come back over here so people can hear you on the microphone. But then the listeners think it's funny when they can tell that she's like 3 meters away from me and bouncing around. Or when she leans in and like leans right into the microphone and goes, blah, 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 and something.
And she says, Dad, why is that card blue? And you're like, I don't know, it's just blue. Back to the turn.
Yeah.
So what did you say? So you're just reading out the number plates on the cars again. Okay, that's cool, but it's not helping. What was the one? Oh, the Circle of Glug was the funny one recently.
She's asking about that, like, because the glug, how the butts are getting bigger or whatever. I know.
Said, why is it eating everything or something? I said, I don't know. It's like the Circle of Life, and she goes, the Circle of Glug.
Yeah.
Like, ooh, that's genius. And of course, at the very end of the episode, I'm signing off. She leans in and just says the Circle of Glug again. And afterwards, I was like, people loved that, by the way. She goes, great. I'm going to do it every time. I'm like, that's going to wear thin. Like, and it's one of the things that people are like, oh, I wish she was on every episode. I'm like, she couldn't keep up with every episode. And also, if she did, like, it would be less funny and it would be less of a thing. And also, as she gets older, she's going to want to not do it, I think. At some point, she'll be like, no, I just want to sit here on my phone. Like, she's almost at that point now. Mm-hmm. Can you get ready for school? No, I'm on my phone. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to be on your phone. You're supposed to be getting ready for school. So we're already getting that point. So if she was a regular host, it wouldn't happen as much. Again, the only reason I was able to be regular was that it was just me. And I can be regular and I can front load episodes if we're going on holiday and all that stuff. Like, I could never coordinate, or I could never get to 1,100 episodes if I was having to coordinate with others, including my own children. So,
yeah, well done. It's a feat in itself. It's amazing.
It really is a testament to stubbornness and stupidity. Like, I think a lot of people are like, oh, look at him go. I'm sitting there going, won't somebody stop me? Like, because I can't stop now. I've done so many. Like, why would I stop? Right? Like, it's like, oh, okay. Well, I got to keep going. And it's not that I'm not enjoying it too. Like if I was not enjoying it, I would stop. But then also I think, it's like, but then who would I hang out with on the internet anymore? I don't know. Like, what would life be like if I wasn't engaging with everyone? not so sure. So I derive enjoyment out of the process, and I do wonder what does it look like when I am actually 80 as opposed to joking about when I'm 80? Am I still going to be recording a podcast? That doesn't sound right. Like, I guess I'll be healthy if I'm still walking and recording a podcast.
I'm scootering to work.
No, scootering. I'll be hobbling. I mean, at some point, I'll have a walking stick or something. That'll be quite entertaining.
And then the episodes will be longer.
Potentially. I mean, but also if I'm retired, like how does it work if I retire? Not that any of us get to retire anymore, right? Like, modern stage capitalism, something. I don't think any of us ever get to retire. I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, but I haven't stopped yet, and I've been going for a very long time. So yeah.
Well, you don't look like you're covered in blisters, but your name is blisterguy. So I know you've gone over this on your own podcast before
many times, because there's so many episodes that I'm like, I should readdress this. People are going to ask.
Could you please do this for the Born to be Wild listeners? Yep. Can you please describe why you are blisterguy?
So it was at that moment again when I discovered the internet. And the sad story is I discovered the internet, and this is also how I discovered that nobody was awake. I was just looking up stuff on the internet. I was like, I kind of enjoy Nine Inch Nails right now. What happens if I type 9 Inch Nails into Yahoo search or whatever it was we used back then? It's like, there's a chat room. I don't know what that is. It wants a username. And the first word that came to my head was blister. I typed blister in there. And I think it was in my head because I'd been painting Warhammer miniatures for years at that point. So they come in a blister pack. So I think the word was in my head and it sounded kind of cool. Blister. Okay, type blister in. I'm in a chat room. There's no one here because apparently at that point it's 4 a.m. in the States, so there's no one talking. And that was how I established the username and also how I discovered that I was alone. But what happened then was I had to do an email address and blister@hotmail.com was taken. And in Magic, everyone was like something guy. This that super lucky guy. That random guy. That's I'm like, what if I put guy at the end of the word blister? Blister guy at Hotmail. That's not taken. I take it. And the first thing I started doing for content was like I was reading websites about Magic, and there was this big one called the Dojo. I was like, well, no one's going to listen to me on there. And there was this other website on the side called neutralground.net. There was a store in New York called Neutral Ground, which was run by Brian David Marshall, that Pro Tour historian. I was like, I could send something to them. For some reason, the university email system at the time would truncate your emails, like just chop the end off. And I don't know whether I forgot to sign the email from my name, but all he could tell was from some guy called Blister Guy. And so he posted it as by Blister Guy. Everyone else is posting their stuff from their real name because nobody actually has usernames at that point in the internet. But my stuff is by Blister Guy. And also to make sure I would go Blister Guy, and then I do lots of returns, and I do brackets beep bracket, like end of message kind of thing. Yeah. And so all of my stuff would get signed off Blister Guy beep. And so you still occasionally see someone on the internet who has known me for 20 years who will go, oh my god, it's you, beep. And I'm like, oh yeah, I used to do that, didn't I?
Beep Richie. And
so I got known as Blister Guy for a very long time, and I can see you've got here original username. That was my original username. I've literally had it for 27 years or something. Like, how many people can say they've had a username that long? Like, people change the username.
Me.
Hydra, go on, tell me.
Well, that's why we like to ask if you have an original username, because we had Martian Boo on who said it was Throbulator, and Swagwar was like Sexual Tiger or something like that, right? So we like to ask because it's funny sometimes, but Hydralisk, as most people know, is a Blizzard thing. It's from StarCraft from 1998, I'm going to say, is when the first StarCraft came out. And I've actually been a member of BattleNet with this name since then.
Wow. Yeah, so we're around the same time. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about 25 years having this exact username the entire time.
Wow, yeah.
And it was generally because I don't know. What else am I gonna be?
when it's unique as well, it makes it easier. Like people know me as Blister Guy. I guess that's what it is. Like, why would I choose anything else? And then, like, my daughter has even said, "Why Blister Guy?" I'm like, because it just is. Like, why is my name Ray? It's because my parents chose it. Like, you don't. I mean, some people do want to change their names, but most people are like, I guess it's just a name. And so Blister Guy was just a name. Like the fun part about it as well was, whenever you see content creation now, everyone gets to go by their username. When I was writing about Magic, everyone was known by their real name, except that I was Blister Guy. And then when I started doing work for Wizards of the Coast, they would actually put my name as Ray Blister Guy Walkinshaw. They're like, okay, well, he can have a username, but just him, only him, because he's so well known by that. No one else is allowed to use the username. They're still credited by their actual name. But of course, today, even in like proper esports casting, everyone is known by the username. I was just accidentally well ahead of the curve by going by the username. And again, I think it's just because I forgot to sign my name on an email.
That is so funny.
It's weird, right?
I was gonna give so Nate was gonna be here today. However, his brain
Time
broke and
zones, how do they work?
he
Yeah.
forgot he was camping. he said he was gonna be here, and then he said, "Oops, I forgot."
Yeah, he's scared of me. That's what it is. He's scared of the
We're
Australians.
leaving for camping today, so I can't be here. But he did leave a nice thing that he wanted to say. So I'm just gonna quote Nate Wolf. He said, "Just want to give a huge shout out and thank you, Ray, who was a huge inspiration when I was making infographics back in the day. I took inspiration from him. I remember he would make these infographics and I wanted to do the same for Wild, and I reached out to him to see if it was cool because I didn't want to cramp his style. And he was really supportive and said I could go for it, and I did. And that is where most of my Twitter followers came from. So thanks."
Yeah, I mean,
he says this is about this is over 5 years ago. We're talking like around the beginning of Hearthstone, back when he was even before Into the Wild or starting Into the Wild. So he wanted to make sure that you saw that.
I can even tell you where the infographics came from. Basically, Raza Priest, right? Like we're talking Highlander Priest when it was standard legal. So we're talking a very long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I wanted to play it because I enjoy that style of deck, and there was no HS replay or any easy way to compare two deck lists, and so I would make an image of the deck list that I wanted to look at, and I put it into Photoshop, and I put another one next to it, so I could eyeball them next to each other and go, okay, so I see the differences here, and I put another one in and another one in. And then I did something where I was like, just trying to separate it out. So, okay, well, they all have these one drops at the top here. And then there's a gap because this one has Dirty Route and this one doesn't or whatever. So I staggered it all out just so I could see this breakdown of the differences between the decks. And I was like, that's actually really cool. And so I just quickly saved that Photoshop image and posted it on Twitter and said, hey, I was looking at some Raza Priest lists. This is how they all break down. And everyone was like, that's really helpful. And like suddenly, I think the first one had like 500 likes or something silly. It was, and at the time I didn't have very many followers. That was very helpful. So I was like, I guess I'll do one for Reno Warlock as well. Let's do that. And then I did one for Reno Mage, and everyone was just loving them. They were really helpful. The 2020 Hearthstone Summit, they invited a bunch of people out to Anaheim. I remember going to that, and a lot of these, like RDU, came up to me and goes, oh, you're the guy who did those infographics? Those were really helpful for me, because it was just this way to see something. And I'm sitting there going, what? What do you mean? And of course, I don't do them now, right? Like, because what's happened over the years is Hearthstone have got this cadence going where they update things frequently, and metagames change. We get balance changes all the time. And creating one of these infographics would take evenings, several evenings in a row. Like, first I gather the data, the deck lists I want to do. Then I'm creating the images, I'm creating the decks in Hearthstone, and screenshotting them, and then lining them up in Photoshop and making it a little bit pretty and things. Like, looking at Nate's one, I liked his even more than mine. But like, this would take hours and hours of work, and I enjoyed doing it. But the point is now, if I tried to do one, it's like, what's good in Wild right now? Let's do an infographic on 3 or 4 different versions of Mech Paladin, for example. Well, balance changes have happened. What was the point in even spending time on it? And so I just kind of stopped doing them around the time we were going to have our second child, I think.
Also, to the point, it was back then, we didn't have deck codes either, right? So
no, exactly, right? So it was,
looking at the infographic was almost a necessity at that point. Like, someone gives me a code, I can just plop it into this.
The other thing I was doing was I was highlighting what the core cards were. Like, if I had 6 of a deck list, okay, these are the cards that are in all 6 of the deck lists, regardless of what they're doing. And these are the cards that are different from deck list to deck list. And also you can compare 2 similar archetypes like that. Like, something that's like Outcast Demon Hunter or something that's Questline Demon Hunter. There might be a lot of crossover there. Like, here's 3 lists with the Questline, here's 3 without, but you can see that a lot of these cards cross over. And my thinking was that someone could look at this, internalize it, and so when they were playing it on their ladder, they go, okay, yeah, there's that card, So it could be either of these lists. That card there is what's telling me that it's actually this other type of list. So it was helping people be able to internalize the idea of differentiating which deck they've they're seeing based on like key cards and things. So it was really helpful at the time. But as you say, information moves so much more quickly now that it's not nearly as helpful anymore to present it that way. But it was what I did after a while, and Nate thought he would do it as well, and he didn't do nearly as many as I did, and I think it's because he was like, this is a lot of work. What is he thinking? I'm like, I don't know what I'm thinking. Sleep can happen later. I'm making infographics now.
Maybe you and him have the not sleeping thing in common, because I know that when...
It's a parenting thing.
Like...
I'm learning that now.
Like in our host chat, Nate will send a message, say at like 1:30 in the morning on like a Wednesday. And it's like, oh yeah, I just hit, like rank 5 or diamond 5. And then he'll also post again at 6:30 in the morning. I hit legend. And we're like, what? Like between the 1:30 and the 6:30, I was asleep the whole time. But I also have a 14-year-old, so that's way different.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that. Like we were almost getting back to it. Like the 10-year-old is 10 now, and we have a 2-year-old. But before the 2-year-old came along, we were like, oh, maybe we're actually starting to get some of this free time back now. But then along came the 2-year-old, and it's all gone. But it's like it'll happen again. It'll be fine. What happened was when my wife got pregnant the first time, someone was like, oh, get all the sleep you can now because you won't get any later. I'm like, that sounds like you're getting in for a marathon. Well, you better sit down now because you're not going to sit down during the marathon. Like, when are you supposed to practice running before the marathon? So I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay up a bit later each night. So I get used to the fact that I'm not having any sleep. And it really helped. I was like, it's exhausting when you have a newborn. But I was like, I feel like I'm getting through this. And I think it's because I prepared for it. Was I a genius? I don't know. But I will invariably almost always stay up to about midnight most nights. And it's because, everyone's got 24 hours a day. I'm like, yeah, but like a good 18 plus of those are spoken for either working or looking after kids or sleeping. And like 3 or 4 hours in the evening, and I'll really push how much I can get done just so I can have some time to myself. And so I'll go to bed at midnight. And the 2-year-old will wake me up at like 6 a.m., maybe a bit after, maybe a bit before. Wake up, Daddy. Daddy, come on. Come on. She pulled me out of bed, and I'm off there. I'm emptying the dishwasher, and I'm making breakfast for the kids. Like, it's not a lot of sleep, but you can survive on it. And I will sleep later. So when I joke, sleep can come later because I'm making infographics, like, yeah, it will. I understand it. There'll come a time when the kids won't wake up in the morning because they're sleeping in, and I can enjoy that. And I'll wait. It'll happen. I hope.
With all this effort that you put into your podcasts and in your Twitter and everything, I just want people to know how they can find your podcast if they don't already know. For the wild listeners, where do they look for your stuff?
Okay, so I'm on Twitter as @blisterguy, but as we know, Twitter is very slowly imploding. But if you look for blisterguy anywhere, you'll find me. But if you wanted to find the podcast, search your podcast app for Hearthstone, because very cleverly early on I was told that put the name of your product in your podcast title. So it's not Walk to Work, it's Walk to Work - a mobile Hearthstone podcast. Hearthstone. So when people search for Hearthstone, it shows up in the results. And a lot of people will come to me and go, I'm starting a new podcast. What do you think? I'm like, great. Just make sure you put Hearthstone in the title so that when people search for Hearthstone, they find it. Because if you're calling it like, I'm going to say bread and butter, right? Tito was doing bread and butter as a podcast. He's like, bread and butter. Like, I'm like, yeah, put Hearthstone next to it. Otherwise, no one's searching for bread and butter to find it. Or someone is searching for bread and butter and they're not going to be interested. You got to put Hearthstone in it. And so I did that. So search for Hearthstone. You'll probably find my podcast. It's been there so long. I've been doing this so long that it is quite high up. Like the number of downloads I've had over the years mean that you should be able to find it if you don't already. But otherwise, just find me on Twitter if you want, or come hang out in any of the Discords that I'm in. Send me a ping. It's like, hey, I heard about your podcast. I'd like, because everyone sounds like that. I'd like to have it again. I can't find it. Yeah, exactly. I'll walk you through finding it if you need to. But that's where you can. I have a YouTube, but basically, if you just search for @blisterguy anywhere, you'll probably find it.
It's so
if you search
funny.
Yeah.
Because so I've typed in Walk to Work on Spotify. Right. But there's without typing in Hearthstone, but there's a podcast literally called Walking to Work. And I think it's like a woman who's like exercising every day or something like that. And I'm like,
good on her.
I'm like, darn it, I'm looking for my nerd show.
That's right.
I don't want to know about your exercise. Which, yes, good on her, but still put it in the Hearthstone. Yeah, gotta put it in the Hearthstone. You gotta put it in the Hearthstone.
So
and that's why this is a wild specific Hearthstone podcast, because you got to have Hearthstone in there. That's how it works.
Exactly. So for those of you joining us for the first time, welcome aboard.
45 minutes in. How did it take us 45 minutes to get to that?
We were having fun. We record this very podcast live every Friday evening, asterisk, at twitch.tv/borntobewildhs. And the video versions of this podcast is then posted to YouTube shortly thereafter. Audio versions are also distributed to all of the podcast apps. So however you are watching, listening, or absorbing via osmosis this podcast today, thank you. Yes, you.
So I usually listen to this, right? I don't watch the stream because it's on at weird times of day because of time zones and all that. We've covered that. I listen, right? And so I've always heard you guys saying this via osmosis. And I was like, I assume people are pointing at the camera, and you were both pointing at the camera, and I was pointing at the camera. I knew they were doing this. I knew it. I could hear
so
it.
you knew without ever seeing it? That's amazing. We always do it.
Yeah, and in the pre-show, whenever you did that, I was like, "Oh, he watches too."
No, I definitely don't watch. Like, it's funny because this has come up recently. Actually, is there's a sizable Hearthstone community for vision impaired people. There's like this Hearthstone Access app that allows people who are blind to play Hearthstone, which I never would have imagined, right? And one of the reasons I do gameplay in my podcast was because I like the idea of content that I can listen to while working. I can't watch it, right? I can't watch someone streaming or playing, but I could listen if they were describing the gameplay. And most streamers don't bother. They're just chatting. And I can understand. You're doing it for 3 hours, it would just be exhausting. But I wanted to create content where I could listen to someone playing and hear what they were saying. And so I've practiced narrating my gameplay, describing the board as best I can. And apparently this Hearthstone Access community, these vision impaired people, like, we really like your podcast because this is the only content out there where anyone's describing their gameplay. I was like, oh, what a happy accident. That's wonderful. So no, I don't watch the podcast. And even if I had it on live in the stream, I still wouldn't be watching it because I have a spreadsheet up in front of me and I'm going over someone's contract or something. You know, I'd still only be listening, but you can hear the pointing. You can feel it in what you're saying. You know it's there. You know it's there. Exactly. The other thing that's funny as well is a lot of people listen to podcasts on like 1.25 speed or something. So when the intro came on, I'm like, what's wrong with it? Why is it so slow? It's like, to me, it's like, what? Why was it going so slow? Like, oh, yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Well, before we get into the main topic of the show, I would like to say a quick thank you to Shokunin and the other patrons of our show. Your support means the absolute world to us. If you enjoy this content, please subscribe and comment on this video on YouTube. Another simple way to support the show is to leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, Google, or any other podcast platform of your choice. If you are watching live on Twitch, we have awesome emotes that you can unlock by subscribing to the channel. If you have Amazon Prime, you can do this for free. There are other emotes you can unlock completely free just for following. We also have some amazing merchandise. If you would like to see, we do have images where Schmoopy Mommy and Schmoopy Daddy are wearing some of the amazing shirts. And I mean, oh man, I didn't rock mine tonight. I forgot.
I didn't either.
Right. Well,
yeah, but Hydra, you're dressed the same as me. I thought that was appropriate.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, here's her Storm Brew, if that makes anybody feel better.
That is very cool.
Finally, if you would like to support the show financially, you can. Whoa, is that a Murloc? Someone's got to clip that for the next Murloc.
I'll be up there with El Tino.
Yes.
If you'd like to,
it's funny because whenever someone's guesting on a podcast, you're like, do they actually listen though? I know El Tino does the Murloc noise on this podcast. I've been listening.
You have been listening. You called that one for sure. I wish I could emulate El Tino's Murgle, but I cannot. It is
impossible.
It is.
His Murloc game is up there, right? Like that guy. Nobody tips the scales quite like he does.
Wow.
That was brilliant.
Hey, I've been doing this for a while. Derailing people for a long time. You were halfway through saying something important, but like.
Finally, if you would like to support the show financially, you can support our Patreon for as little as $1 per month. If you'd like to interact with us personally, please join our Discord, a free and amazing online community of friends across the world who love talking about wild Hearthstone. Also, we got pictures of like pets and other random things.
And wild adjacent.
And wild adjacent twist, and all the other fun stuff like that. Oh, you know what I didn't pull up? Do we have a list of the funny names for this week?
We do in their Discord that you were just talking about.
I love the long delay sound. I didn't think of it ahead of time, but I'm pretty sure there's something about Lego and pork.
This is absolutely heavily featured by Pork Lego Guy, Tim Cook, Lego Legolas, Drunk Cat, Soy Sauce Gang, Nightmare Axe, Bacon Science, best science.
Fighting with pork Lego.
Uh-huh. Wet Bandit Icy, Killer Bees, and Killer Bees is the big one. I pushed next and it kept it wrapped. So
I'm always amazed when people like actually recognize their opponent's names and read them. Like I always fail to. Like I'll just be playing on the ladder and someone will message me and go, I can't believe you top decked that. I'm like, what? Oh, I'm playing you. Oh, I didn't even realize I was playing a friend of mine. You know, it's like
yeah.
I forget to look too, to be honest. I feel like I miss out on a lot of them. And then when I do catch it, I'm like, I found one, but I don't remember to look. Like I actually forget to look most of the time.
I didn't used to look until we had the Funny Hearthstone usernames channel, and now I look every single time, and it's like, oh, hey, there's a friend. So it's pretty neat.
You'll notice if you're in the Discord, there's an uptick of me posting them on like a Friday night after the show and a Saturday because I've remembered that we're supposed to post them. So for those like 2 days, I'm posting them more, which is hilarious. Well, let's get into how our weeks were. And as a rude host, I'm going to talk about mine first. So I spent this month playing a lot of Diablo. And that's not Hearthstone. So I spent this last week deciding I should play a lot more Hearthstone, especially obviously as this is Born to be Wild. I played a lot of Wild Hearthstone in the last week, and it was about 82 games that I played to Legend, which is, I've played more, I've played less, but...
that is more than 2.
It is more than 2, but I did hit Legend. Was it yesterday or the day before? And I played a not new deck, but I guess my version of a new deck. So I played Pirate Rogue, and I've played this deck a lot, right? And I did find a list. Thank you to Neon on his HearthstoneDecks.net, where he was running the fun stuff, the Potion Master Putricide and Harmonic Hip Hop, and holy Potion Master Putricide is so fun, right? So, all right. So I do not play a lot of Standard. blisterguy, I know you do. Sheep, you play Standard more than I do. But I don't have a reason to play this card. And guess what? A lot of the pirates in a Pirate Rogue have 1 health. And
It's
Potion, yeah, they're squishy. And Potion Master Putricide is a 1/4, right? So it lives, everything else dies. You get so many of the potions. It's ridiculous.
Why can't I hold all these potions?
So you do sacrifice the consistency of missing a pirate, right? So that is like the one thing, because for Swordfish, you want the most pirates in your deck, right? So when you're discovering the pirate off the Swordfish and you don't get it, you feel a little bummed. It was sort of worth. I mean, like I only had a 63% win rate. I don't think that's absolutely horrible.
Only.
Right.
Honestly, a 50% win rate is respectable. A 51% win rate means you're pretty good. A 60% win rate means you're actually super good and you're not aware of it. Come on, man. That's great.
I don't know why I beat myself up over win rates.
We don't kink shame here.
I just do. However, and if you actually, my matchup spread was pretty good. I versed everything. I will say, I think Druids and Shamans were the biggest, and the Kingsbane Rogues. Oh my gosh! So that was the worst. When I was gonna verse a Kingsbane Rogue that had the Blade Flurry, like I think I had two or three of my final bosses were the Kingsbane Rogue, and like I knew I wasn't gonna win. Unfortunately,
Did you consider trying to win though? Like instead of losing though, what if you tried to win? I don't.
Bold strategy.
I did try.
Look, at least you weren't running Sticky Finger, right? Like, who was it that was posting on Twitter? It was like they were like, we can do better than this keep rate. Was it no the deck include rate of Sticky Finger? Like it's like 4% of decks have Kingsbane and 8% of decks have Sticky Finger. It's like that's worse. And then the next week it was like 5% and 16%. Yay, we doubled it. Still, what are we doing?
No, that makes no sense. So like I know I'm gonna lose going into those. I still try, obviously. However,
They might brick.
Mhm.
they could brick. It worked out. I got there. I'm gonna take this time to thank Mr. Walkinshaw for the yo-yo effect talks that I've heard so many times. Because I tend to get anxiety when I'm gonna hit legend, not gonna hit legend, goes back and forth. It always happens to me. My wife is sitting on the couch behind me and I'm getting up and I actually, so in where I'm sitting now, I can pace and walk through my kitchen, my dining room, my living room and back. And I come down and I make a turn and I get up and I do like 3 loops. And then I hit like end turn. And I do it again. Right. Like, because like right when I'm in the final boss mode, and I do it all the time. But I keep in mind the yo-yo effect that you have talked about so much of, look, this is your win rate. You're gonna get there no matter what, as long as you just keep playing. You need to play enough games to get there. And just because you didn't win the final boss this time doesn't mean you're not going to win it later. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it could be next week, but like it's going to happen. And so I keep that in mind when I'm playing, and you've actually helped me. So
Oh, thank you. I mean, look, I'll try and explain it as quickly as I can. I think I described it originally as a pendulum. Like the game will show you a rank that you think you're at, right? But really, what your rank is actually swinging either side of that. You win a game, you lose a game. It's up and down. And like I'm diamond 1 star, diamond 1 and 2 stars. Like I'm so close to legend. It's like, well, you're not, because that pendulum could swing backwards, and it's okay because it can also swing forwards, and it'll swing backwards, it'll swing forwards. When you think you're 2 wins away from legend, like you might be, but also it might be 20 games away from legend, and you will get there. But just expect it to go backwards, expect it to go forwards. And the best bit about the ranked floors, including legend, is all you have to do, your pendulum swing out and just touch that ranked floor, boom, and then you're set. And that's how we keep climbing. You can climb with a 50% win rate if your pendulum just reaches out and kisses the next floor each time, and it's fine. And like the hard part is like, I got to win 2 in a row to get legends. Of course you do. You have to win 2 in a row to get to any floor, probably. Well, unless you have a multiplier. I guess this is old advice, but like we'll all get there in the long run. And it's about like, okay, you can't win every game, but you can't lose every game either. You will win them as long as you try and play good Hearthstone. And what'll get in the way of that is tilt and getting upset. So you got to level out, take it calm, just try and play some good Hearthstone. You'll get there.
Great advice. Final comments about this deck is, if you love aggro and you're bored of it, put in Potion Master Putricide, because it's fun as hell.
100%. That card is so cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. Actually, I can share my replay maybe in the show notes or online or whatever. I did actually win because of this. I was facing a paladin, and I ended up killing their 9/9 dragon that was on the board with the destroy enemy concoction that I got, right? And then I got the other one that said draw 2 cards. Then I draw enough cards to buff my weapon and then smacked him in the face for lethal. It was stellar. So
chef's kiss.
Yeah,
yep.
Chef's kiss.
Sheep and her on the wrong.
It was way better than just playing like a 2-1 pirate. So
I completely agree.
I'll go with that. I only had one other thing to add to my week, and I probably have to talk to somebody at technical support at Blizzard about this. But do you guys have? I know both of you play mobile way more than I do, but on PC I disconnect constantly, and it's middle of the game. I get the chance where I can point my minions at the face, make my trades, make my turn, but I can tell it's frozen, right? And I have to wait 30 to 60 seconds for it to reload, right? And then it'll bring me back into the game, and by that time it's usually my opponent's turn, and it is very stress inducing.
So advice to anyone playing as Hydra: play your turns as quickly as possible so that as much of his turn is expired as possible when he gets back in.
Next level strats.
I don't know what's happening, because like if I play Diablo 4, it doesn't happen, right? If I play whatever other game, it doesn't happen. Just in Hearthstone, I have no idea why it's happening. So Blizzard, if you're listening, please help me. I'll probably send you an email, but it bugs the hell. It actually did affect my stats. The wins and losses are not the same as they would be, because I know there was a couple games where I had won the game, where I had gotten lethal by hitting the face, but since the game disconnected, HS Replay or Deck Tracker did not log it. So, I mean, I'll take the 63, but it's more like a 64 or 65, whatever. Minor complaint. I'll talk to technical
Is it
support.
something that's happening recently after a certain patch? Like suddenly it's happening when it wasn't previously?
So that is a thing for me. Last patch, I had 0 problems. The patch before, I had connection issues, and it is to me, it is patch related to me.
Yeah. Have you tried to reinstall at all?
Many times. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a problem for a long time. Anytime an update would come out, my phone would just refuse to recognize that there was an update. It would hang if I was off Wi-Fi. And I had a second phone that would update. And in the end, like I spent many hours with tech support, and they were like, don't just reinstall, because that wasn't fixing it. Hard reset your phone, like factory reset your phone to see if that worked. And that did fix it. Like it was just like some weird little DNS setting or something that was just hanging in there. Like, because we could tell I had another phone on exactly the same network. In fact, that phone was tethered to the first phone and it would still work. So it wasn't the phone's Wi-Fi. There was something with the actual installation, and there was really deep in the phone. Like, I don't want to suggest factory resetting a phone because that's such a nuclear option, but it might help.
Well, it's a PC issue, which is the thing. It's not the phone.
Yeah, well, that's hard. Ditch it into the water, get a phone. Hey, we've all got
Don't you have phones?
Don't you have phones, Hydra?
Okay.
Gosh.
Quick final thing, because Nate will be mad if I don't bring it up. Stephen King update, real quick. I'm reading different seasons, and the first story in this book is Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah, it is.
That is what I'm going through right now on my Stephen King journey.
Like, I'm happy to see it too, because I've been hearing you talk about this, but actually to see that it is such an old school version that you've been scrounging these secondhand shops for. That's really cool.
I have been, yeah.
Look at that spine. It's like a skateboard. It's so curved. It's been read, loved by many people.
Yes,
man.
Yes, indeed. It's pretty exciting. And I love finding all the old stuff. And the journey is to find the hardcovers. This one is a paperback. Still amazing. Still love it. But I am over the moon. The thing is, so like everyone's seen the movie Shawshank Redemption, right? So like the main character is Morgan Freeman. So while I'm reading this, I just have his voice in my head, and I'm just like speaking Morgan Freeman to myself while I'm reading it,
which is doubly funny because in the short story, his name is Red and he's an Irishman, and Morgan Freeman's character in the movie, kind of like says it as like a kind of throwaway, kind of jokey line, but it's that kind of connection, which is really, really kind of cool.
Yeah, no, it's great. Sheep, enough about me. How was your week?
Well, this week I was sick again. So I've got, I've got a kiddo in daycare. My son's in daycare. So like,
daycare plague.
Yep. I've been sick off and on at least once a week for like pretty much the whole month of July. So like, 'tis the season of my life, I suppose. But in Hearthstone, I've actually been playing a lot of standard lately, mostly Unholy DK, which I featured that deck before. But after the new patch, I've been playing a decent amount of World 8, a friend in the Coin Concede podcast Discord, tagged me in this Dude Paladin, which is really fun. Been having a blast with that. In particular, the Crusader Aura. So it's basically like a Rokara effect, but it's just like a persistent effect for like 3 turns. It's really fun. You just poop out a lot of dudes. You've got Lothraxian, so maybe they actually live. And then, oh, look at that. All of a sudden, they're going for face for 3 instead of 1. And it's a lot of fun. And of course, if you drop a Warhorse trainer too, then they're going for face for 5 instead of 3. And it just compounds so much.
Yeah,
so,
the buff sticks. That's the thing that's so good about that aura that wasn't apparent at first is it sticks.
Yes.
I got buffed. Also, that buff I'm carrying with me to next turn, by the way, and I'll pick it up again if I can. He's like, wow, that hits hard.
Oh yeah, hit it very hard. Outside of Hearthstone, I've also been reading. My book is not in the room with me, or I'd hold it up as well. Pierce Brown came out with a new Red Rising book, and that is Lightbringer. So number 6 in the Red Rising series. If you listen to the show frequently, you hear me talk about this probably like once every like episode or 2 or 3, depending on where it is. And so far it's fantastic. Absolutely loving it. I'm not as far into it as I would like because of aforementioned illness, but I'll definitely get in there a little bit further shortly.
I'm very excited to catch up to you on that series because I did read the first one and it's amazing.
So good. So Nate had a little aside that he's camping in Big Bear, planned the trip 6 months ago when reserving the campsite and completely forgot about it when Hydra asked if we were free today. So he apologizes and says, eek. But Blister Guy, how was your week, my friend?
So it's been good. I finished Legend Climbs in Standard, Wild, and Twist a couple of weeks ago. So it's been like, cool, what do I do now? And usually, I guess I'll learn Battlegrounds again. And after they changed all the minions, I've been really bad at Battlegrounds. So there's been a lot of learning there, which has been fun, but I'm not great at it. Also, when they added Titans to Arena, I've actually really been enjoying playing Arena this week. Again, I'm not amazing at it, but I've been really enjoying playing with Titans cards. I think this is actually a better gold sink for Blizzard than like Heroic Tavern Brawl.
Oh.
I'm willing to just keep spending gold on arena runs just to play with Titans cards ahead of time. I'm like, okay, this is cool. But speaking of Titans, and I mentioned this to you guys before, I did a fireside over the weekend to open my pre-order bundle packs. That's both the mega bundle and the regular bundle. So I had a good 149 regular packs and 5 golden packs to open. Now, I don't want to complain here because I think what's happened is so remarkable that it's just once in a lifetime. The golden packs, I did get a golden legendary. This used to be a big deal. You get 5 golden packs and that would be it. Like the first time where you could get within the first 10, how are we going to know? But now we can buy more with gold. So even if I hadn't hit a legendary within the first 5, I was going to buy more golden packs anyway. So it's fine, right? So I got a golden legendary in those packs and it's what I hoped for and that's fine. In the regular packs, I did get a signature. Now, that is not exactly something that you'd expect. So, again, fortunate there. However, that's where the luck ends. So, my first legendary within the first 10 packs, I got it in the 4th pack. That's not bad, I thought. I'm off to a good start. This is great. But then the second legendary, that came after 29 packs. And I was like, ooh, that's a little bit high. Now, just to recap for anyone who's listening, the ceiling is 40. You can't go past 40 packs without getting a legendary. The average is 20, right? So anything above 20 is a bit longer than you'd expect. Anything under 20 is good, and you expect it to balance out over time.
Yeah.
That 29, other than the 4 for the first one, that 29 is the lowest timer of any pack I opened this expansion at the fireside. I got a 29, I got a 30, I got a 39, and I got a 40. That's it. 149 packs. 5 legendaries, a 40 and a 39. So that's almost like
how many packs?
149 packs. I got 5 legendaries, and that's including the first one that you get within the first 10 packs. That is so much the worst pack opening I've ever experienced that I was just shocked. I was like, I can't believe I was here to witness this, and I'm not mad because I don't really need regular packs anymore. I just want to open golden packs, and the regular packs are just more cards to upgrade to golden, so it's fine. And maybe the luck will. Yeah, whale noises. Like, I expect that I'm going to be, like, hopefully lucky with the golden packs, but it was still that, like, because I remember several expansions ago having an unlucky pack opening at Firestar Gathering, going, I think that's the worst I've ever had. This one, I can say unequivocally, there's no way anything came close to this. This is the worst pack opening I've ever had, and I assume I'll never see anything worse. I think if anyone has ever had worse than this, they probably uninstalled, right? Like... Yeah. The only reason I'm still here is because I'm pot committed to this Hearthstone thing and I like it. But that was something else. 29, 30, 39, and 40.
Wow. Well, also, you must have got something else out of it because I opened the game the other day and I could swear I heard your voice.
Yeah, we're gonna have a time, mate.
So you get royalties for that, or
no? So what's happening here is when I record my podcast, the second half is gameplay, and I've got this thing where I record on one phone while playing on the other, so that the recording phone can hear the gameplay, and I have the sound up. And so, the fun thing to do is make sure the sound is up in the game so that when I'm opening it, we hear the opening with half. But sometimes I forget to turn the volume up in game. And so I have to make it up on the spot because listeners are expecting it. And I don't make a secret that I am making it up on the spot. And I'll come up with something new. But that was me pretending to be half. That wasn't actually half.
That one was a particular favorite that I had heard, so I had to clip that one.
Right, mate. Let's play some Hearthstone.
And how?
Welcome to the news. The news is so good. The news is actually pretty good. We have a new expansion, Titans.
Titans, mate. All right.
So we're gonna get the whole refresh of the rewards track. Thank you. I might get a little ahead of myself here, but Ridiculous Hat is really good at posting ahead of time, letting everybody know and letting me know that I'm stupid and that I'm screwing it up. So thank you, Hat, for letting me know how many quests to have. He's always really good. I feel like he's been, how many years has Hat been letting us know?
Yes.
How long to keep your quest for? Yes. The answer is yes. Yeah.
As long as there have been quests.
As long
It's been 84 long years. Yeah.
84 long years. Half of, or twice as long as Ray's been alive.
No.
He's
No.
Sorry
No older
for
than that.
Sorry for bringing that up again.
I mean, I could say my age, but that's less fun. But I can say I was born in the 70s, which is like, oof.
Yeah, well, you win.
Yeah.
I was not born in the 70s.
I think I'm even older than Nate.
I think you are. I think Nate, because Nate's only like 2 years older than me. So yeah.
And I'm wee.
He's a spring chick. You are. You're a wee laddie.
A wee laddie. And then Craig, he was just a big baby.
He was
I love that man.
Sprog, yeah.
I love that man.
The whole Scottish accent thing, by the way, my dad was born in Scotland. I don't think I can do a particularly good Scottish accent, so I try and do a funny one. And I don't think he has an accent, but everyone else who talks to him thinks he does, even though he's lived in New Zealand for some 50-odd years now.
Oh, wow.
It's funny. What would happen is he'd pick up the phone at home. He'd be like, hello? And this is how you could tell it was one of his family members. Hello? Oh, hello! One of his family members.
It's what it kicks. That happens in Canada. If you're from Newfoundland and you live, say, on the West Coast, and you don't sound like you're from Newfoundland, but your family from Newfoundland calls you, the exact same thing happens, and nobody knows what you're talking about. Like they go into their own, accent and dialect, and they have a great time. And I wish I knew what was happening, to be honest.
Or you go eat some moose, eh?
Yeah. No, it sounds. What's that Brad Pitt movie where he's like Irish? It sounds like that.
Oh, Snatch.
Snatch. Yeah. I know. It sounds exactly like that. It sounds like a lot of fun.
You like tags.
So the Hearthstone podcast.
Speaking of fun, and Ray, earlier you were mentioning buying golden packs. I can't wait to buy golden packs because the signature art, we've got it all now, and it looks incredible. I actually only pre-ordered the mega bundle this time because I'm gonna get the golden packs, and that's where all the stuff is. But I actually already opened a signature Loken, which was really awesome. What? Yeah, buddy. But I can't wait for Memoron and for Sif. Like those are my top 3 favorite aesthetic signature cards. They all look so good. So good.
Yeah, they do. Actually, it's funny. I had a rant about this on my podcast this morning. Sif, Raiden, Mimron, just S-tier signatures.
Yes.
I'm only disappointed that the rest of them aren't as good as those 3. If we hadn't seen those 3, the stained glass window style, the Vitruvian Man style, we hadn't seen those, the rest of them would be great. You're like, these are fantastic. But now that we've seen those ones, I wish the others were that good. I feel like what's probably happened here as well is they will have commissioned the art. And some of the art will be coming back. We're almost getting to find, look at these stained glass windows. This is so good. Why didn't we think of this earlier? And it was probably too late to get them all looking like that.
Yeah.
Well, so what I'm hoping is next expansion, maybe they're all more cohesive, because those 3 are just so much better than the others. And I'm also really looking forward to blowing all my pocket money on golden packs just to get some more of those signatures. They are nice.
I know they're they're so good. Memoron is my favorite. Personally, it looks so good, and I really, really hope I open. I wanted Tony last expansion. I didn't get it, and super sad, didn't happen. It's
I
fine.
think Tony was one of the last ones I got. I know Muckler was the last one, and Muckler is nice as well, but Tony took ages, and I was getting disappointed about that.
Yeah.
But it went
It's okay.
into my quest line Demon Hunter deck. Once I got it, I was like, get in there, man.
Yeah. This expansion, I will be only purchasing the Mega Bundle as well. I don't feel like I need to buy the standard one. Normally, for everyone who's listening, you know I used to always buy both, like no matter what, and sometimes on the wrong server because I'm stupid. But that happened one time,
And you're not stupid.
You have to learn the hard way.
But recently I've decided to only buy the Mega Bundle, and I have like around 8,000 gold about right now, and I have 50 or so packs that I have not opened, and I will buy the Mega Bundle, so I'm probably good. And I also have about 10,000 dust. So
10,000.
I've got no... Oh, is that bad or good?
I mean, it's probably fine. I know I have at least 30,000 on hand, and under the button is probably close to 80,000.
Oh, so that's the thing. I have my button is somewhere where your button is too. I don't hit the button. I have many cards I could disenchant, but I don't. I only do it when they get nerfed. So I'm fine for a full 100% collection as soon as the new expansion drops. I don't have any concerns about that. It'll happen. I just don't feel the need to buy both bundles this time.
Yeah, I hadn't even considered it, but you're so right. Like full clarity. I mean, people have probably seen me giving away bundles on Twitter. I get given the bundle codes from Blizzard. Again, it's fortunate circumstances that I'm in Australia and New Zealand, and there aren't very many content creators down here, so they give me stuff. But I probably wouldn't need the regular bundle anymore now that we can spend gold on golden packs, and it's a relatively recent thing. It really was a real shift in the dynamic of how I viewed packs.
Same.
And it's amazing, and that's why I wasn't actually that upset about such a poor pack opening with those 149 regular packs. I was like, if this had happened 3 expansions ago, I would have been spewing, mate. But this time I'm like, you know what? That's funny. But let's save the luck for the golden packs. Yeah.
Speaking of giving packs away, just going to drop a little hint here. At the end of the show, we are going to give away a bundle live on stream. We are not going to announce it to the masses. It's going to be for only people that are dedicated listeners that are here at all times, and it is provided by Blizzard.
Blizzard Entertainment.
Just give me a minute. I'm just posting in my Discord to bring the listeners over if they haven't already.
But we appreciate all of the regulars that are always here watching, and we appreciate it so much. So thank you. We will facilitate that later. That's you.
Sorry, still typing to my Discord.
I'm not kidding. Your thing, man. Do your thing.
Yeah, why not bring more viewers in? And may as well follow while you're there. Get those numbers up, right?
That's the one. Yeah.
Yeah.
We
can edit that out later, right? Oh no, wait, this is live.
Oh no.
Good thing I haven't sworn yet, right? Like, because I'm in Australia. Apparently, we all swear here.
Yeah, you swear like backwards, right?
It's truth, mate. Oh yeah, no, upside down. Swearing upside down.
Well, speaking of things that are a little bit upside down, Twist. Yeah, see the beta. The beta. It ends tomorrow as of current recording, and the beta is coming to an end. After the beta ends, Twist will be temporarily unavailable while they prepare for the formal launch. But the formal launch is September 1, so like it's close. We've only got to go 1 month without it.
It's funny because we knew that it was going to happen, but as we've gotten close to the date, I'm like, oh, I kind of want a new Twist format this month. In August, I want one now. Like,
what am I going to do? Play duels?
Like, there have been people who complained about the New Age format in the first Twist we had, right? Like, and I get it. I understand why some people don't like it. It is the kind of format I like, so maybe I would have a different view otherwise. But I really liked the New Age delineation, right? Like that whole midpoint between Wild and Standard. I was like, this is cool. I like that. And part of it, I'm not going to lie, was that is an attainable collection that I could make sure is golden. Like, I don't have a lot of golden stuff throughout all the Wild stuff.
No.
But New Age, I could do. I have a lot of that in gold. And, well, to be fair, actually, the decks I do play in Wild, I do make golden. But, like, there's a lot of stuff in Wild I don't have, right? So, but I was like, New Age, new age. I like this, and so I'm excited for there to be more new age. Like, it doesn't have to be the one that we just had in Twist, but other variations on that card pool, whether it's without neutrals or with neutrals or some other stipulation. Right? I don't mind. I'm excited to try them, and I was like, I don't really mind that people didn't enjoy this one as much. Perhaps it's cool that it exists, and I'm looking forward to more new cool ideas.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this brings me back to when you were first making infographics and complaining that you didn't have the card in gold and it looked weird. So you had to craft the card in gold to make the infographic look proper.
No,
right?
it was the other way around. It was
the other way around?
So I like having them in not gold for the infographics. And when I sort of stopped doing infographics, it was this freeing sensation that I no longer had to care about whether I had something not in gold.
Okay.
What I didn't like was that because in the end we could use deck codes. I could plug a deck code in, and Hearthstone defaults to golden cards where you have golden cards. I would have to go through, remove the golden card, add the non-golden card, and that's what annoyed me so much. Or if I opened a card in golden, I'd be like, okay, cool, I have it in golden, but I'm also going to need a normal version for when I do an infographic, and that was what was annoying me. If I was doing infographics now, they would just be all golden. And because at the time I was like, I could do them in gold. It'd be really cool. It looks nice. I think there was one time there was a Blizzard event in Australia where they invited a bunch of streamers down to have a showdown here. And the local officers, how I actually even got involved with them. They're like, hey, why don't you just create infographics of the deck list? Like, everyone's playing, 4 of the people are playing Warlock lists, do an infographic. And they let me use one of their God accounts so I could do them all in gold. And I was like, this looks nice, right? I was like, but I can't afford to do this long term. But these days I am doing that because I've been playing so long that I have that reserve. If I was doing an infographic now, and there was a card that just wasn't golden there, it would be golden before the drop of a hat. Gold, upgrade, great, upgrade it is. All right, it's all golden. So I'd be fine now. But there was a long time where I was like, I hate having to own a golden card and also the non-golden version just for the infographics.
Slight caveat, except for the diamond and signature cards, because those would be okay, right?
Well, interestingly, no. So I would, because it throws the aesthetic of the infographic off.
Okay.
So if there's a diamond card, and actually, which is funny, when I'm doing a wild deck, I will intentionally remove the diamond Lotheb and put in a golden Lotheb because I have a golden Lotheb, because that is more bling. It's easy to get a diamond Lotheb, just have that expansion.
Sure enough.
That set. Golden Lotheb, now that's baller.
I'll
literally do that.
I've not disenchanted the goldens because I have the diamonds. I keep those too.
I've got to admit,
the stuff
now that whenever you get the diamond or signature and you get to re-roll it into another one, I do let it do that. That's how I got my golden Stargazer Luna.
Fair enough. Isn't she in standard though? So you just get one with core anyway now.
She might be, but
yeah, but you for the
long haul.
Is after Brand was rotated out of core, I went in and I'm like, it's you're long overdue, mate. And I upgraded it to gold, so I have a golden Brand just because I was loving using it in standard so much.
Oh yeah. Well, on the Twist announcement, they also said that there is going to be a fun surprise, and we're to stay tuned for that. And currently, we are waiting on our acceptance to the Content Creator Discord, so we don't know what that fun surprise is. But Ray probably does know what it is, so he can't talk about it.
Insert Hagrid gifts. I can tell you with full confidence, dear listeners, dear viewers, they haven't told us what it is. And they're probably
we did get our acceptance. By the way, it just
great. Congratulations. Yeah. So the thing is the Content Creator Discord is great because it helps give you guys a place where we can discuss with other content creators, sometimes sensitive subjects that you can't discuss with everyone else, like how to make your YouTube work and what's wrong with it and stuff like that, and also they will give us a heads up when things are coming. So we did get a heads up when Twist was coming, right? But they're not necessarily going to be telling everyone what the next Twist is going to be. And if they did, it wouldn't be that far in advance. I think there will be some people, some special tiers of it that we'll get to know, like the people who are running the websites and things. They probably get more advanced heads up so that they can structure their tools to be ready for it and things. But not everyone gets to find out stuff ahead of time. If we get told about, that there's an expansion announcement coming, we won't get told what it is unless they're expecting us to be ready to create content on the dot. So we'll get a little message. Like Hat does it now. He's the one running the Discord. He's like, hey guys, yep. So here's we all know there's probably an expansion announcement coming. I'll let you know that it's going to be this date for the announcement for the teaser tweet, this date for the announcement tweet, announcements on that day. And that's all we get told. And that's really, really helpful when you're trying to plan your content. But we don't get a million secrets that everyone else doesn't get. It's to help everyone coordinate things, and it's really great.
So do you have any theories as to what the fun surprise could be?
No, but I have lots of ideas of what I think I'd like it to be. Like, there's lots of neat things. One of the things as a wild specific podcast, this one, right? Well, you start thinking we want to see more wild stuff. But one of the hurdles that I saw immediately with this was that people complained that they felt locked out of Twist because they didn't even have these cards.
Yeah.
And so I think we will see some wild specific ones eventually. I think we'll see more New Age than wild. I do think the next one will probably not be that. I think it'll be a lot more standard focused, just as an attempt to not rub salt in the wound of the people feeling locked out, unfortunately. So my guess is it'll be, if I had to guess, more like what we call block constructed from Magic, where it's like the standard format is the last 2 years worth, right? What if we had just this year? So maybe either Titans and Festival Legends are the only four sets available to build from, or maybe everything from last year, so Sunken City, March of the Lich King, and what was the other one called? Oh, Nathria, right? Like maybe it's just those. But even that, like people are like, oh, we're kind of bored of those cards by now, so I'm not sure what it would be. But when they say a fun surprise, it's going to be more than just that, I think. There's going to be something else on top of it. What was I thinking of the other day? I thought so we've got all these keepers, right? A lot of these keepers have like some kind of coming in Titans, like Odin, right? Your battle cry, your hero power. When you gain armor, you also gain attack. What if there was a format where you just had that ability up front? If you've picked warrior, you get that straight away. If you've picked demon hunter, you get the Jotun one where the first spell you draw each turn casts on its own. What if you got that battle cry right up front? Super powerful, but like really cool.
Oh
the
my
priest
gosh.
one probably doesn't work. I don't think anyone cares that the priest one wouldn't work, but you know what I mean.
The
how does it
druid
work
would
with the
be so
Planeswalker?
broken. I love it.
Yeah. It would be cool, right?
Yeah.
You're from Magic, so you know like how planeswalkers work, right? Could you explain that?
Yeah. So planeswalkers are a lot like hero cards, sort of. Like a planeswalker is like it's a lot like the Titans. So it's like a minion that you put into play, but doesn't interact like a minion. Now the Titans will eventually interact like minions once you've used all their abilities, but planeswalkers look like a minion in play, and you can choose to attack that like it were a minion, and it reduces the power that it has. And it has these abilities that can either make them more healthy or spend some of their health. So like, an ability that increases its health is probably not very powerful. An ability that spends some of its health is very powerful. And so Planeswalkers and Titans are kind of similar to that way. So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing they could do, right? It could just be a format where we each have a hero card immediately on the start, or maybe even like how with Battlegrounds, how you get a quest after turn 4. Like maybe it's a format where if you're playing Warrior after turn 6, Odin's immediately active, and if you're a Paladin, something happens after turn 4 or something, that kind of thing.
Double dudes.
Might be a little difficult. Yeah, like from turn 5 onwards, your hero power is upgraded, that kind of thing. I think there could be something neat like that. I don't think it'll be the upgraded hero power thing though, because people are still a bit burnt by Gen, Greymane, and all that.
Yeah.
But there's lots of neat things they could do, and I really think the idea that the hero feels different from turn 1 or maybe turn 5, like I think that would be a really sweet idea to try out. And like you got to be careful because like if it's from turn 6 onward, everyone has some kind of upgraded ability, but the format is so fast that everyone's killing you on turn 5. It's like, oh, that doesn't feel very special.
Then it's just like, okay, armor, boom.
Yeah, everyone's trying to turtle until they can get their upgraded ability online.
Very true. Well, you know what? I think I've got a question.
And now, unrelated advice with Nate Wolf.
Blister guy. So, Blister guy, I've been listening to your podcast for, I don't know, like 1,000 and something episodes apparently. And while I've been listening, one of the things that I noticed from the very beginning is we did have something in common, other than Hearthstone, and that is you appreciate this one artist that I like, and his name is Devin Townsend.
Yeah.
Right. So Devin Townsend is a guy who used to be a singer for Steve Vai, and then he did Strapping Young Lad and the Devin Townsend Project and all of his solo stuff. And I was like, Devin Townsend can be kind of crazy, right? Like if anybody else out there knows like Strapping Young Lad, this like is some crazy stuff. But then you look at Ray, and he is like this clean-cut, stand-up guy, dad with his daughter walking to work, so prim, proper, awesome dude, but he loves Devin Townsend.
and even more extreme metal too.
Oh yeah.
So this has always been fascinating to me. So my question basically is, give me your guide to awesome metal. What should I listen to? You can start. It doesn't need to be new stuff. I want to know where you began and what you listened to, and how it all just vomit it all out to me. As Devin Townsend would.
Yeah. So if I were to say to someone, you should listen to my favorite band, Meshuggah, I would be doing them a disservice because they would immediately not enjoy it and then hate me because it would feel so like abrasive.
You got to ease them in.
But they're very good.
They're amazing. In fact, the only reason I discovered Meshuggah was because Devin Townsend posted on his forum. It was like, Meshuggah are ridiculously good. He said a different word, but it was an older time where we don't say that anymore. And so I started listening to them, and it was abrasive. And I was like, no, but Devin says they're good, so I'm going to keep listening. And I did get it. Anyway, as a youngster, my dad would play rock music for us, and like AC/DC. We're like, oh yeah, we'd be loving AC/DC, rocking out to it in the car. So like, if someone was like, I want to get into rock music, I would definitely recommend something like the real classics, like the AC/DC, like the Rolling Stones, all that stuff. That's your gateway. And then eventually you start hearing stuff like Black Sabbath or whatever. For me, it was Guns N' Roses on the radio as a teenager, or preteen even. Like hearing Guns N' Roses and Motley Crue and Poison, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I love this. And then Metallica's early stuff, that Black Album, that was the real gateway into metal for me. Like I saw an ad on TV when the Black Album was coming out, and I was like, that's awesome. And I love the story. Pardon the thing, but I was 12, I think. I saw the ad on TV. The new hit album from Metallica featuring the hit single Enter Sandman. I was like, oh, write that down. And it's like, this was someday during the week. And I was like, okay. So Friday's newspaper is going to have the top 20 listed in it, right? So I go to the newspaper and I'm scrolling down looking for, Enter Sandman is like number 15. Okay, cool. Number 15, write it down. Sunday night, the top 20 chart's going to be on the radio. Go and listen, waiting for number 15 until I can listen to the song, get tape deck, press record so I can hear the song. And if anyone knows Enter Sandman, like it's a rockin' song, it's pretty straightforward. At the end of the song, after the outro, it sort of gets back to the intro, and then there's this moment where the drums go, and James Hetfield goes, ooh! I remember falling over backwards, going, oh my god! And convincing my dad to take me out to the mall on the Monday night to go buy the album. So I remember this trajectory of like Tuesday seeing the ad on TV, Friday having to look up the newspaper, Sunday seeing it hearing it on the radio, and Monday going out and buying it, and then like telling friends at high school, my God, I'm loving this. And someone's like, oh yeah, my big brother's really into heavy metal. He'll lend you their earlier albums and also Megadeth and, stuff like this. And that's just how it moved and it kept going. So like, don't start with the hard, heavy stuff. Go through those classics. Like when I was growing up, like it was almost embarrassing to like Bon Jovi because it was this 80s thing, right? And it's old, but that stuff's classic now. Don't be afraid of the classics. Just enjoy them for how good they are. And you'll get to some of the awesome, weird stuff like Strapping Young Lad and Devin Townsend. Like I remember when I first saw Strapping Young Lad on TV, I was like, wow, okay, weird, cool. And then at some point I was like, oh yeah, I get it now. I understand it. And like I have every time of the day for Devin Townsend stuff. I love his stuff, especially the stuff from Strapping Young Lad because of my metal side of it. But a lot of even some of his softer stuff is really amazing. Some of his prog stuff is amazing. And as a person, he's just really engaging to listen to. He talks about his work. He talks with a lot of humility about what he does. Incredible stuff. I love it.
Yeah, his stuff has meant a lot to me. You know the softer stuff, his song "Ia," that song.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but whenever I've had insane anxiety or whatever, when I listen to that song, it's so calming. Compared
my
to
favorite one.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, compared to what, like anything off City or Alien? Like,
yeah, I was exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say a name of a song off City, and then I remembered that it is not safe for work.
That's
to say
why
out loud.
I stopped. It was oh my.
Yeah, exactly. I see the same one, right?
Yeah.
This Detox, for example, was the first one I heard of his. Like my favorite soft one of his is from Key, and it's the title track Key, the one that's kind of in two halves. And the second half of the song just has like that arpeggio thing on the acoustic guitar, and it's just slowly building and building to more intense. And you hear the drums coming up underneath it, and he's just doing this like shredding arpeggio thing up and down, arpeggio, however you say it. It was like, and every time I hear it, like the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. It's just, it's amazing. Love it.
It really is.
Anyway, when you said you were going to ask me advice, this is the advice I was going to give. All right. There's someone who's living in Australia. I was going to say, first, get the person away from the snake. All right. Ensure that they rest and stay calm. You want to apply a pressure immobilization bandage. You don't wash the bite area because that's going to help people identify what the snake bite is.
Oh.
Don't apply a tourniquet, right? Because you don't want to cut off too much of the blood flow, because that can leave the poison in one area. Don't cut the wound and don't try and suck the poison out. No, but
So do
when you're asking
nothing
advice,
that I knew on TV?
right? So, and that's the thing, right? I thought when you're going to be asking advice of someone in Australia, it was going to be like how to deal with the snake bite, because like everything else pales in comparison. Nothing else is an issue. You need advice? All right, here's how we deal with poison bites. Let's go.
Wiser words have never been spoken. And you heard that on
More to be wild.
Wild.